Hey y'all, Nev here with One Deal Away, and wanted to sort of spend some time just kind of chatting with you about some of the thoughts that are kind of going through my head with all of the stuff happening. And since the announcement of COVID-19 sort of happening in China, I started sort of thinking and wondering of, like, what if this was all engineered? And I know it kind of sounds a bit ridiculous, but I keep wondering if it's sort of like an inside job, so to speak. I don't know what the benefits would be. Well, I could probably name quite a few benefits to it, but that was one of the thoughts that I had, and I don't know. I have no clue. But I'm also going to tell you that, when I received the news that my mom had stage 4 cancer, I also thought that maybe that's a conspiracy and somebody is playing tricks on me. A few months ago, I have lost a dear friend and a student, and when I heard that he was terminally ill and in a hospice, I then too thought it was a joke, and it wasn't. So I think it's a normal reaction, maybe, and I don't know if it's a normal reaction, but it definitely was my reaction. So maybe it's normal for me, even though it's not necessarily normal per se. But I think it's normal to sort of doubt and wonder if something that we didn't expect, some sort of calamity of sorts, something that can harm us or those that we love, can potentially, or is potentially, is potentially, a joke, a hoax, a made-up thing, and so I don't know, but I have wondered of, like, what if this was sort of planned and planted, and I can definitely think of some benefits to it. There are people that believe that the world is overpopulated, and so, how best to eliminate part of the world, but to, put a plague of sorts out into the world, right? I mean, that's definitely one of the ways. There are a lot of concerns about a lot of elderly individuals tapping into pensions, because people live longer and people haven't invested as much, and most of it is because those few that are investing, markets are manipulated absolutely horribly, and vast majority have not been taught how to do it, and we've all kind of been left to our own devices to sort of fend for ourselves, but nobody has ever taught us how to fend. And so it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being the case, but I don't know. On the other hand, I'm thinking, how horrible of a human being would you have to be to create something like this? So I just don't know what the truth is about this, and whether it's, a man-made thing, so to speak, whether it was a planned outage to call it, or whether it's a, sincere, just something happened, something unforeseen happened. There it is, a black swan that has hit us all, and now it's time to sort of deal with it. And I don't know what the truth is, but I keep thinking of all of the stuff that is happening, from market crashes all over the place to millions, probably well over 1 billion people, I would argue at this point, sort of being under this martial law of being locked up. You might know I have family in Europe, and I connected with my sister last week, so just about a week ago. And at that point, the kids were still going to school, and it's was still kind of like semi-laughable matter, but then more people started to get sick, and reports started coming in, and here we are a week later, not even 6 days later. Schools are closed. They're teaching all the kids over TV and online, if you can believe it. They actually have set up TV channels, and they have like one teacher teach entire nation, right? So all first graders, your class begins at like 8 a.m. or whatever the class begins, and it's TV. You turn it on a particular channel. It's this one teacher that kind of stands there and teaches all first graders. And then there's a different channel that is like for all the second graders and third graders and so on. And I'm thinking, what the heck do you do when you have like 3, 4, 5 kids that are like in different grades? Like, how do you schedule that? Like, how many TVs do you have to own? And, that means also that you're forced to subscribe to cable. And, I'm sure that many people are, but, I'm not, for example. So like if I had a kid and I was over there, I would have to subscribe to it. The second part makes me think of, you laughed about it, and then in less than a week, all of a sudden you have a modality of how you're going to teach all kids, and you moved into action. And so part of me thinks, was it really, just sort of coincidence, or, was it planned? Because, how do you get the whole thing geared up and figured out in like, I don't know, like 2-3 days? I also, some of you may know, some of you don't. I also work at a university where I live, and we've gotten order of like we're shutting it down, but we've been sort of mentally preparing for it for a few weeks and kind of working through it, and it wasn't a laughing matter on our end. And even to shut everything down and to send college age kids away, I mean, it took like a lot of work and well over a week to pull it off. So how they did it, I don't know. But so that's kind of the piece that is happening. But that's the interesting part that kind of happened, is that we talked, and the schools were still on and they were not going to close it, and now we're talking 6 days later, and as I have mentioned, all of the kids are that was what, Sunday, I think we talked. On Tuesday, kids officially transitioned to TV/online. That's like less than 48 hours. And now there's martial law. They're not allowed to go outside after 8 p.m. Right, from 8 p.m. till 5 a.m. I want to say, they told me. They're not allowed to go outside, period. So they can go outside and kind of have to stay away from everybody else, which is what we're all doing, I think, these days. The seniors, so if you are a senior, and I don't even know what age, so I don't want to make up a number, but you're not legally, you cannot be outside, period. Of course, the country that I come in, we tend to be a bit of a stubborn kind of group of people, and so especially the older generations, and we like to sort of give a middle finger to any type of authority and just keep doing what we want to do for as long as we want to do it, up until a point, and then we kind of, all right, eventually we give up. But we're not an easygoing sort of nation that you say stay at home and we just go okay. We like to rebel a little bit, and those of you that may know me personally, you might be laughing and going, well, I finally get it. Where you get it from is just built into, my friend. So it's cultural, I think, for me, because I tend to do that a little bit as well, and I laugh about it because I think it's really true. But that's kind of where we are right now. You look at Italy and streets are deserted. You look over France, streets are deserted. You're watching these numbers kind of climb. I'm looking at here in the United States, and we're still not testing as much as we should be. We should be testing everybody with everything. I last week or whatever, 10 days ago now, I wasn't feeling well. I started getting fever. Going. I was like, should I get tested? Like, I don't know what this is. And they're like, oh no, until it hits certain fever. Then I'm talking to my sister, and she's like, no, like they would have tested you here right away. And where I come from, we call it still a developing country. But meanwhile, they have these tests, and it's a blood draw test, and the results are come back within an hour, I want to say, something like that. Like, it's super fast. And then I look at the United States, where we're supposed to be, quote unquote, leaders of the free world, right? And, we're still taking swabs, and it's taking days for you to get the results. So I just, a lot of these things are making me question everything. I keep wondering about everything, and I keep thinking, if this wasn't somebody's or a group of somebody's sort of sick joke that maybe just got out of hand, and now, we're all dealing with it and living through it. And I'm not discounting that COVID is not real, because I don't know. Some people are claiming it's not. Some people claiming it is. I have no clue what's true. I don't even know if it was man-made or just sort of freak of the nature and it happened. But, it definitely makes me question and wonder about all of it, because of the different approaches and how things are being dealt with, and what people are saying and what people are doing, and how quickly or how slowly certain things are being done in certain areas of what the responses have been. And, but we won't know. We won't know for a while. And, I think only decades from now, or, maybe even centuries, who knows how deeply, this would be covered, if it really is sort of a planned outage, as I called it earlier, because I didn't have a better name for it. So, it's not unheard of. Even things that we've been taught throughout history and schools and that kind of stuff, just now we're starting to learn some truth about certain things about World War I and World War II. And, it's sort of when the people in power and positions kind of go away and disappear, is when people finally start feeling safe to speak up, to stand up, to say something, to bring the truth. And so that's kind of where I feel like we are right now. It's going to be a long while, before we find out what the actual truth is about this whole thing. And, I don't even think it's going to happen when it all blows over. I think it's going to be, like I said, decades and decades before we find out and learn it. And for some of us, we may never find out or learn it. But, in talking to my sister, we are back home, aside from kind of being able to quickly pull some things over, like they're stopping public transportation. They're shutting down all of the bars, clubs, restaurants, hairdressers, and I'm hearing that happening in Pennsylvania. I'm hearing that happening all over. You can have a delivery back home, but that's about it. And, you can go out for a walk, I guess, but it has to be small groups, and keeping distance, and, don't touch anything, sort of way of life right now. And that's just the new normal, I guess. So, there are some concerns over there of medical workers getting infected. And, there's a real fear and concern of, if medical professionals get themselves infected and they're not able to treat anybody. You can have all the ventilators in the world, but give me a ventilator. I don't know what to do with it. I looked it up. You can buy one online these days and probably get it in, a month. But I don't know how to hook that up or how it works, or, so if those folks go down, and this ends up being the real thing, which it sounds like it is, who then takes care of everybody else? So I think, as the governments and the central bankers and that kind of stuff are trying to sort of save the economy, save small businesses, and do the stuff, I just really believe, and I appreciate them kind of putting a bit of a pause on student loans and talking about mortgages and renters and that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, they need to do something special for the health service workers, because these people deserve every single loan to be completely forgiven and forgotten. These people deserve to get their mortgages forgotten and forgiven. And, they're risking a lot. They're risking their families, their lives, their livelihoods, everything to save another human, a total stranger. I think same goes for like firefighters and police officers and emergency response. I think whatever loans these people have, that's, you want to help them out, help them that way. And they're not asking for any of that stuff, but I think that would be the right thing to do. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of where I stand. And mentioned earlier that I work in a university, and there have been a lot of students who are saying I parents can't come get me. Mom is a nurse, dad is a doctor, or vice versa, or both are doctors or whatever. They're working insane shifts. They can't come get me. How do I do this stuff? But the cool piece is that the vast majority of universities are working with their students. If they really need a place to stay, they'll let them stay. They're sort of like you're on your own, but at least you have a roof over your head. So that's the kind of cool piece that I have definitely witnessed. And I've seen some stuff on TV and social, like university kicked me out, and that's, I don't know about every university, okay? I'm not connected with all 4,000 or 5,000 in the United States that we have alone, nonetheless around the world. But the few universities that I know of, not a single one of them has kicked everybody out. Yes, they said we're closing, and I'm sorry, you live 50 miles away from here. You can bike home. You got to go home. But for everybody else who's countries and seas away, they're not kicking them out. It's people are people, and they're human at the end of the day, and we might sometimes behave erratically at times and be emotional at times, but they're not being kicked out. But that's kind of what really hit me when they were talking about the medical workers, and my sister was reporting that there's some medical professionals that are being infected, and we've heard a similar thing happen, I want to say, in Seattle, and in Italy as well. So they're human too, and so they take all the best precautions that they can. But if it's a virus and small slip, small anything, it happens. And that's kind of where the real risk is that these people are taking, that most of us don't have to take. And I know a lot of people are complaining about the whole things shutting down, and again, I don't know if it's real or not, but in case it is, let's follow it. Let's do our part. It could be part of the planned sort of economic reset. I don't know. Anything is possible. I'm not out ruling that or ruling that out, whichever the correct saying is. But in an off chance that it is real, that it is something that can harm people, that can harm us, physically, then, whatever. We'll figure out the money. Let's live, right? Let's make sure that we can have a good, solid life, and, let's all do our part. And I'm not gonna, complain about the fact that my favorite restaurant that I can't go and sit in, or that I can't go to a barber shop or get my nails done or any of that. Do it at home. You'll be fine. You'll live. That's an important piece, important concept to have. And really the sort of the thinking behind that, sort of wanting to kind of follow through with the requests. I tend to be very risk adverse, and same thing with investing, right? If there is a potential for this to be highly beneficial, heck yeah, I'm totally in. I'm excited for it. But before I do it, I don't just look on the upside. I look at the downside and sort of assess the risk and say, how do we minimize this? So same thing with this of, could it be a hoax? Yeah, sure. And on me, I guess, and on all of us. But what's the worst case scenario if it's not a hoax, right? And I stay home, and yes, economically, it's awful, and it's going to be awful for a while, but it's also going to open some amazing opportunities, and that's the exciting piece for me, So you just get yourself out of the harm's way, and you wait it out, and then, as they say, when the air clears, you slowly emerge, you look left and right. If it feels safe, then you progress. That's just sort of what my plan is going to be for the money stuff, for the life stuff. And, I think everybody kind of taking a bit more seriously and, protecting themselves and others. But, I can understand the skepticism. And as you can see, I too have my thoughts of doubt. And yet, nonetheless, I am, still going to practice to the best of my ability what they're asking me to do for my own and everybody else's safety. So that's just kind of where I stand. So I hope this is, I know this is a rant, but nonetheless, my plan and hope is that maybe it's getting you to kind of think through, maybe you have the same thoughts as I do, I don't know. I just figure at least I share my own views, thoughts, and opinions. And, if you are right there with me, cool. If you're not, equally as awesome. I love the fact that we can have many opposing views and opinions, and that we live in a country where we can openly share that and openly and passionately sometimes disagree about our viewpoints and what our thoughts are and kind of what we're doing. And that's what makes, us as individuals so amazing. We all have different things that we are considering or not considering, for that matter. When it comes to investing, I've done a few different videos where I talked about some stuff, and what I really want to talk about now is the opportunities that I believe exist within the crypto space. So, you have likely heard me talk a lot about real estate, and I am still very, very, very bullish on income producing real estate. I think it's going to be fabulous, fabulous investment. It has been. It's going to be even better than anything we've seen so far. That's my honest, sincere opinion. But depends on where, what, how, price, the whole 9 yards, right? So you got to pay attention to all of the key markers. It just can't be like just real estate. Like, it has to be a lot more specific than that. But I also think that cryptos are going to be poised. They're just fantastic. So for one, the fact that they're riding the blockchain, right? I just kind of like the whole transparency piece of it, that there's no central bank that controls them, that they're really the sort of free market flowing thing of we the people get to decide of how we use it, what we use it for, that we're not paying these crazy fees to transfer money, that, I like that it's portable, I like that, is fungible, as they say, which is basically exchangeable. I like that I can press a few buttons or scan a few codes and be able to buy or sell something, or send somebody money or receive money. It makes it really easy. It's clunky, and it still needs room and still needs time to grow and develop. But, like anything new that has ever started, that's just kind of how things are when they're young, when they're at the beginning. And, it's been pretty volatile throughout this economic downward cycle, so to speak. But, I think part of that, it was designed right after 2008 to kind of prevent that. So it wasn't necessarily supposed to do that. But now we got a test to sort of see, okay, how does it do during the crashes? And yeah, it went down. It was I want to say almost like $10,000, I don't know, a month ago, plus minus. And it was over 10 actually. It was definitely over 10. And then it just kind of fell down to like into the like 4,000-5,000 level, and latest I've checked, it was about 6,000. I'm talking about Bitcoin specifically, but because I think cryptos are pretty cool, but I'm not necessarily like every crypto is a good crypto, right? Like just like a house, like not all real estate is good real estate. So, I really do like Bitcoin. I'll be very honest. I like Ethereum that it allows for others to sort of build on its platform. What I don't necessarily like about it is that it's sort of attached to this like company thing, right? So that makes it not so decentralized, which is why I really like Bitcoin much better. There's just no like entity. It's just sort of like created and kind of like it's having a life on its own, based off of us as users. And so I think it definitely has a lot of power. And I think that, with this coronavirus, and again, real, man-made, I don't know, but I do see and do know and do believe that it's going to have huge economic impact for decades to come, and maybe if not for decades, but definitely for years. I don't think this is going to be over in a month or two. I know some people are like, oh yeah, by June this is going to be done. I don't think that that's the case. The virus itself might be, right, but the economic impact, I just don't see it. You might have a different opinion, and that's okay, but I just don't see it. But cryptos, I believe that most governments will kind of switch to it. And so this potentially could be the sort of trigger to change the financial system. I don't know, but it does have a power to potentially do that. And we'll all see, like, right with the time, whether that is going to happen. But even if it doesn't, I think eventually people sort of get sick and tired of riding the stock market roller coaster. They'll exit, just like all of the senators and billionaires and everybody else that has exited. And they're all shifting. It's so funny. They're all shifting. They all shifted into real estate long time ago. Okay, and if they haven't, they're definitely like in a process of doing that. They are shifting into gold, and hearing a lot of them shifting into cryptos. So if it's one of those things that is just kind of interesting to watch and hear, but I believe it because it's just a free market. You can't really manipulate it. It's public. It's a triple ledger, so to speak, right? So it's like you're reported in 3 different places and multiple, like you can't fudge it, right? When I do my own books, meaning accounting for my business or whatever, like it's just I'm keeping it, or my bookkeeper's keeping it. And you've heard of multiple times when people are like quote unquote cooking books, which is basically they have a real accounting book of what happened and what the money was spent on, and then they have this like like a shadow book where it just sort of shows things that they want everybody to see. With cryptos, you can't do that because it's public and it's decentralized, meaning it's like on thousands and thousands of the computers all over the place. It's like you can't just go back and change it. Like it kind of locks it up, and that's that. So that's what makes it really amazing. And I think that where we are right now with the halving coming in May, so that's still scheduled to happen mid-May, and we'll see what that does. But typically we would see sort of like a rally, meaning it goes up a little bit. Then you see sort of a little bit of a shakeout drop. And so that's part of what might have happened with cryptos during this crash. But it's also the other part that I think that there were some folks maybe selling positions so that they can cover margin calls for their paper assets, which is also a possibility. There's also futures that are being now done with Bitcoin, which I know that those are leveraged, highly leveraged. So when things go down, you kind of are have to pony up the cash or forced to sell. And when a lot of people are forced to sell, like, of course, it just drops. So all of those are a possibility. But typically right around this time, right before the halving, it kind of starts going up. And then once that happens, like, it just, it really takes off. And so we'll see kind of what that works out. I wouldn't necessarily bet the farm on it, even though I know there's a lot of people that were like, yes, I would borrow every penny that I can and like dump it into this stuff. I'm very much risk averse. Always have been, probably always will be. I've lived through some economic resets and some, through civil wars and through some crap in life that, I'm probably not the only one, but probably more than the average bear my age. And I think all of those life experiences have shaped me, who I am and how I think. And just, I'm not willing to say F it and just go for it. I'm ready to go for it. I'm ready to go for it. But I do want to do it in a planned and strategic way and protect my downside. So there you go. Hope this is helpful. A bit of rambling, but it was all really meant to perhaps share my point of view of kind of where we are, what's happening, and what I think about one of the really great financial opportunities of our lifetime. And real estate is one of them. I've already done a video about that, so make sure you check it out. I think Bitcoin is definitely one as well, and I'm not the only crazy person talking about it. It's not as big in mainstream media since the crash, right when it was up in December 2017 and kind of crashed in early 2018. Like, everybody was talking about it because everybody was jumping in because it was at the top. And then it sort of crashed and went down and got quiet and nobody's talking about it. And, that's a sign. That's a sign. That's when you get in, you check things, you check the fundamentals, you do a little bit of study, you understand it, and then you jump in. And, it's just kind of where I think we are. And again, I wouldn't leverage my position. It's still very highly volatile. And, but I do see a big potential in it. And so, when it drops down to super low prices, I'll get some and then I'll just sort of slowly accumulate and then sit and wait and let that puppy take me home, as they say. So that's just kind of really where my plan is. And only time will tell if I was right or wrong. I definitely am a proponent of doing a bit of diversification. But I don't do it in a traditional sense that they say through mainstream media. I'm also a proponent of not just diversification, but also a proponent of sort of, hedging my bets, so to speak, because none of us know exactly what is going to work out. I have some idea of what general direction I think things are going to go, but, like the corona, I didn't know it was going to come and it was going to be this big. I had my suspicions. So I exited some stuff a little while ago. When I saw it kind of coming, I switched some of my positions and decided I'm going to ride this puppy as well. So, that's really what it is, about paying attention, entering, if you've ever surfed, you kind of want to catch that wave as it forms, because once you kind of, it's already like foaming and kind of like flipping and stuff, it's too late. When it's, barely moving, it's too early. So you just want to make it timely. Anyways, until next time, stay forever money blessed. And do remember, you are only one deal away.